Welcome back to the Expecting and Empowered podcast. Today we're talking about one of my favorite things, which is running, specifically returning to running after having a baby. And if you're listening and you're thinking, well, I am not a runner, don't tune out just yet. We're going to talk about a lot of things that apply to any high impact activity, whether you're a softball player, basketball player, soccer player. Stick in here because a lot of these things really do apply to you. So you're also thinking, like, listen, I never was a runner. Why the heck would I want to run? The good news is that maybe this could be a thing for you. Some of the fastest, quickest runners that I know now never had a history of running before having kids. So honestly, this is one of my favorite parts of my job is getting the privilege to work with so many women in the clinic and on the Expecting and Empowered app where we watch them rebuild their body, do really cool things that they maybe didn't think that they could do after having babies, or just trying to get back to something that they loved. So let's go through it. Most moms get cleared at the 6 week appointment and they might be feeling pretty good. So you might just lace up your shoes, head out to the trail or the bike path for a run, and the first mile might feel okay, but then you go to bed, get up the next day, you might feel like Captain Morgan getting out of your bed. Like it takes a few steps to kind of hit your stride. Or maybe your IT band is instantly tight after going on a run. And again, it probably feels like a small little nuisance to have some of these issues, but then they can significantly start to build up and create bigger issues like having diastasis recti, which you can create from running too fast, too far, too soon, or having urinary incontinence. And again, anytime you're leaking, that's never normal. We can totally fix that. And we want to fix it because as we age, all muscles in the body get weaker. So we want to fix it now because it's going to be way easier to fix it now. And you're also going to develop way less compensatory strategies. So, running is such an amazing sport. I love running. I try to do cardio 1/3 of the week, so at least 1 to 2 times a week. And honestly, cardio to me feels amazing. It helps me clear my mind. It gives me energy, confidence. It's like endorphins, right? It's kind of like having sex. When it's good, you want to keep doing it. It feels freeing. It gives you life. And honestly, every woman who wants to run after having a baby shouldn't feel like they're leaking or hurting when they run. They they should feel amazing because that's what running should feel like. But one thing that women don't probably realize is that running is actually a really demanding sport. It demands a lot of a body. It basically is a single leg sport, meaning like when you go to do a single leg RDL or something and you're having trouble with that, running is a repetitive single leg sport. So, can I create enough stability on one side and then the other side? Is my pelvic floor able to absorb force? Is my core able to help stabilize me as I'm going from stride to stride from opposite side? Do I have the proper engagements of my glutes, calves, hamstrings? Are those guys all working together to create those nice fluent steps in running? And this is why so many women that are pregnant or postpartum have so many random symptoms when they are running. Because, too, if you think about it, at that 6 week appointment when you're telling, go ahead and do whatever, first of all, you don't even have enough tissue healing underneath your belt. Tissue healing takes 12 weeks minimum and maybe some more time. So I definitely tell moms in the clinic and on E&E, you should not run until you're probably 12 weeks postpartum. But if you haven't run since being like, let's say in your second trimester, that is a long time off. So it's honestly like starting all over again, like setting a base because it is such a long time off. So we want to set up a smart timeline. because we cannot just naturally jump back into the mileage that we were doing during pregnancy or pre-pregnancy. We have given birth, our bodies have changed. We have a whole new world when it comes to recovery. You might not be sleeping, which sleep is an important factor in healing in this timeline. So when we're thinking about going back to running, we need to think about slowly titrating back up to running. So inside the app, there's two things. There's a postpartum running assessment. This will give you postpartum running exercises that are wrong with you. We also have a return to running program, which is 12 weeks, and that slowly titrates your miles up and slowly titrates your speed up, because your body and my body after having kids might look completely different. You might have balance issues. I might have hip strength issues. And so the cool thing about those funnels is it gives you exercises that you need to create a really solid foundation for going back to running. Honestly, this is currently where I'm at. Before having kids, I was a runner. It was a huge part of my life. I ran in high school and a little bit in college. I've run marathons. I've run a lot of 5Ks. I qualified for the Boston Marathon, ran that, an incredible experience. It literally was who I was. And then because of my background, I did keep running up during pregnancy and postpartum. But about 3 years ago, I went to a course and we were working on what's called visceral manipulation, where you're moving organs around. And the instructor was working a lot on my uterus because I have 3 C-sections. So she was working on the scar tissue. And when she was working on that, the next day I went for a run in the morning before the course started, and I physically could not put my foot on the floor. It was the most insane experience. I had so much pain. I was almost positive that I had a broken foot because I could not bear weight on this foot. So pregnancy and postpartum dramatically affects your body and the sports, especially running, that you want to do. When this happened to me, I learned that I actually didn't have a foot problem. I learned that my mid back was so stiff and tight and unable to absorb force or rotate through with running that it had led me to putting extra stress down that side of my body onto that foot constantly. I could not for a year until I learned this about the thoracic spine, but I could not walk across my house without a decent amount of pain. So I would literally put the kids' clothes in one area and then only go across my house once or twice, so I didn't have to constantly be doing that. So this summer, I was like, this is my summer after a 3-year hiatus to return to running. So I decided to skip our own programs because I was like, I have what I call a dumb athlete side of my brain that just takes over. So when I'm pregnant, I'm like, I can out lunge that 50-year-old male that's next to me at the gym, no problem. And I'm like, do it. Then when I return to running, I've gone on 2 runs so far. A 5-mile run felt great while I was running. My foot was super duper sore the next 2 days after I ran. Did a 6-mile run because I didn't learn my lesson enough at a 7-minute pace. This was super easy for me, but my body was actually not ready. So again, this is where the dumb athlete side of my brain goes into overdrive. And then I need to slow down a little bit, and the smart PT side goes on. So again, we need to create these connections in our body. So for me, one of the big things that I had lost is this core connection. Since my upper back was so tight, I could not transfer force across. Our body, when we're running, this isn't more crunches. What this is our body works in diagonals. So as I'm running, as my right arm goes forward, my left leg goes forward. Then I have load on that leg. Then I'm pushing my left arm forward, right leg forward to transfer the load from side to side. I had no core connection. It and this is a bad example too, though, for people, because obviously this is a very serious topic. But I tell patients, because they remember it this way in the clinic, like if we were to have divorced parents, and let's say the bottom side is one spouse and the top side is the other spouse, we still have children to raise together. So we have to be able to connect these sides together. We have to communicate and link up through our core. Especially in the clinic, I see poor core connection in runners through C-section moms, babies, or moms that had babies that sat on one side of their rib cage, or moms that had like a significant tailbone injury or tear during labor and delivery. We have a really hard time reconnecting our core. So there's simple things that we want to do. First, we want to breathe through that area. Then we want to start doing these diagonal movements so that we can start telling our brain, hey, when I'm out on a run, this is the most efficient way to go. If I can make those two parents talk together, if my upper body and lower body start communicating, it will make running so much easier. Okay, the next thing that people really, really lack at sometimes is they often skip impact training. So they literally do no impact training and then go straight into running. So this is where we like to introduce things like tiny little hops, bounces, mountain climbers. I love to teach these first, like from a really low position. And then bring them to upright. So I'll use like a step sometimes and do mountain climbers. They're easier there than just straight on the floor. So then I take the step lower and lower towards the ground, and then I go back to the upright position. So for example, mountain climbers, I have a really high step. This could be the back of your couch. Then I could go to the front of your couch. Then I'm on the ground, and then I could try to do like literally a knee hops, like where I'm bringing my knee up and down. But I have to start progressing impact training so that my body is able to absorb force. If you just hit it with the impact of running, oftentimes, especially in females, because our pelvis has more holes and there's more to support there, we are not ready for this. So we have to start with impact training. And then two, there's lots of different things that you'll see in the return to running section of the app. But a lot of these fundamentals, like one time we have been teaching in the clinic probably for a year and a half, these core classes. And when our patients came in, their cores were so bad. Like, and that's kind of embarrassing, right? Because they were our patients. But then basically we teach them in the class these principles of how to use their core. And then they were phenomenal. Their movement patterns were more efficient. They moved well. They were in less pain. But what we had to do as PTs was actually teach them really how to use their core and use it well. And so what I'm going to do right here is just talk about the fundamentals when we're running, right? Because I think you guys get lots of cues, whether it's on different apps or different things, and then you sometimes don't know which cues to use. So I love this principle of, if you think about running, it is basically like a controlled forward fall. So we are going forward. Sometimes you see those runners though that are like almost look like they're like so upright. Their trunk is very behind them. But when that happens, what you have to do is you're gripping the ground with your heel and then pulling yourself forward up and over. So that's creating a tremendous amount of pressure in our hamstrings, in our calves. So the principle that you want to think about when you're running is nose over toes, or I honestly say in the things tits over toes because that's just more memorable. But I'm going to bring my breast tissue in front of me so that I'm leaning forward. So I have that slight lean forward, which is coming from my ankles, not my hips. If we make this tiny adjustment, again, I am using less of these muscles. We're reducing overstriding. We're using our glutes and our hamstrings automatically. And we're getting our ankle to do what's called this like reflex, where it will automatically let the leg come behind us and then push it forward. But if we don't hinge forward from the ankles or tits over toes, then we're doing a lot more work than we honestly need to do. The other thing that I had talked about in my specific story is I have had a really tight middle back or upper back. And so when I see a lot of moms, I like love people watching. It's my favorite thing to do. I'll watch patterns, and our PT clinic is on this one trail, so I get to see a lot of people walk and run by. And sometimes I want to holler out the window like, "Oh my gosh, I love your gait pattern." And then other times I want to be like, "Hey, listen, you need to be in this clinic." But so with moms, a lot of times our upper backs are so stiff. Think about like moms that have breastfed, bottle fed. We're holding our kids. Our upper backs are stiff and they need more love and care. So, when we're running, we want to think about swinging our arms. We want to not only think about swinging our arms, but if I took a flashlight and I put it on the middle of my sternum, which is that like bony plate in between your breast tissue, that flashlight's facing forward. I want to think about rotating that flashlight from 3 to 9, 3 to 9. Again, I'm getting the two parents to start to communicate so I can actually use my core when I'm running. This is super important. And often I'll have my patients send me videos of them running, and they got one side that you can't go back or you can't come forward on. So really slowing down, thinking, okay, can I get my right arm back when I'm striding and then forward? Right arm back and striding and then forward. You cannot be so stiff in your trunk. First, I was going to say, first of all, you look a little weird when you're running. No, just kidding. Only a PT could probably spot that. But it's just putting a lot of pressure down on our pelvic floor, and it's not getting our core to function. And it's just not a very efficient or fast way to run. If we want to be fast, we want efficiency. The problem with being postpartum is our bodies sometimes aren't made for efficiency right now because they've been through a little bit, you know? So we want to start thinking about these small things. The cool thing is the brain is so smart. It will pick up on like, Krystle, this is a way better way to run when you're actually rotating your arms in your trunk. Why didn't you do this before? My one caveat with that is when my kids were little, I put them in the running stroller all the time and would take them on a run. It's almost instinctual to want to hold it with one or the other arm and not switch. But I would make sure if you're running with a running stroller, you're holding onto that stroller and that one side is really rotating. So the side that's free, you're really rotating. And then actually quite often, like once every 2 minutes, I'm switching to the other side to give the other side a little break. And just like when you hold your kids, you probably are going to prefer one side over the other. And then, so talking about postpartum and really like making sure things are reset, I will say often that most of the moms that come in the clinic that are runners that have issues, their pelvis is so off. What I mean by that is there's 3 bones in the pelvis. My left or right side of my pelvis can rotate, go up or shift up or be irritated. So, one of the quickest ways back to fixing that is making sure that we're doing what's called lateral movement, moving side to side. So, circle band around your ankles, side to side, or lateral hip leg lifts, side to side, or I'm doing what's called internal external rotation of the hip. The knee tips in, lifts up and out, tips in, lifts up and out. I want to start rebalancing the muscles in my pelvis. Most of the women that I see that are in the clinic, they literally have asymmetry in their hip muscle strength. That's exactly why, too, we created the running funnels, I call them, but the postpartum running assessment. And this is going to show you where your asymmetry lies. I've used this in a ton of my patients that are also incontinent because this will help so much with rebalancing the pelvis. So there's not, like shearing in the pelvis that's creating some of the incontinence itself. Same thing with running though. I want to rebalance that shifting that's happened, and it's happened for a good reason. You literally had a fetus in there, or the fetus came out a little bit different when they were coming out. So these muscles, like, they don't just automatically reset. Everybody thinks they automatically just go back, things are good. The UW-Madison did a study like 10 years ago now that showed that women that were runners, they put like little markers on the outside of women's pelvis. Still 1 year later, most of the women that were runners had what's called lateral movement to their pelvis. Their pelvis moved side to side. running is a forward and back thing. We want to be moving forward quickly, fastly. So with this side to side motion, A, it's not good for your body. B, it slows you down. So when you're postpartum, if you do nothing, you're probably landing in that cohort that just needs a little bit of time and attention spent on rebalancing your pelvis. Okay. I'm obsessed with running. I love running. Actually, this summer too, I'm like really hoping to get back at it. I need to put the smart PT brain on and slow down a little bit. But sometimes too, I think we just don't pause for enough time, think about how much is actually involved in running and how much that takes like to train and do it decently well. We should have a good sleep. How many moms don't have great sleep for so long? We should have good nutrition. We should be able to manage our stress. All these things go into such a dynamic sport. So again, we might not have complete control over sleeping, but we sure do have control over some of these other parts, like not watching TV or watching our phone at the end of the night, setting ourselves up for success that we can easily fall asleep, taking out some of the things that are like riling us up right before bed, which could honestly be flicking the lights on at night and having a ton of overhead lights on. At my house, I try to like dim the lights. If I were my way, I'd like be, and I'm Native American, so I feel like this is very appropriate. But I'd have like campfirey vibes, like little, like unscented beeswax type candles around. My husband thinks I'm like off my rocker, but I would they make little outlets too that look like a campfire. But for now, since I live in a house that has another person, I barely have overhead lights on. So last night I was meal prepping in the kitchen and I turned off all the overhead lights besides the one over the sink. And I had that on, and that one's on a dimmer so I could just turn it down. So it's not so aggressive in your face. Again, all of these things are really going to affect our sleeping habits. I'm a big proponent of, I do try to get my eyeballs on the sun the first like 30-ish minutes of the day. I personally work outside in the morning, but I also have kids sleeping through the night right now. So, sleeping, nutrition, we do have control over what we eat and what we put into our body. And then managing stress. I am obsessed with this book called Stress Prescription. Another like mentor of mine that's in PT said that every human should read it, which I really do think. It's like reformed my relationship with stress. I can't recommend it enough, to be honest. So that's called Stress Prescription. We can link it in the show notes. And listen, be kind to yourself. You've probably taken a lot of time off running. So, again, we cannot compare our pre running body to pregnancy to our postpartum body. So, I know a lot of women can. Like, I can go for a 6 mile run, and I just need to be smarter about doing things correctly. I know there's like on Netflix, there was that one series where the Olympic runner was like running far into her pregnancy, and then I think that's like amazing. And was that probably like the best thing to do to support her body right now? I'm not sure, like it just, you think about these things as a PT because it's questions. Like, we should be doing things, it's a small period of time. So we want to support our body. We don't want to rush back. We don't really have anything to prove. And we want to keep taking steps. And I need to take my own advice. So I'm going to go inside. I've actually done I've done my assessment. I have done the exercises a little bit, got to keep doing them because on that assessment, it shows me that I'm at 76, which means that I am able to run. It's not going to feel amazing, which I can confirm. So when I do those exercises, it will help me get to 100% so that I feel really efficient with running. So again, we're so passionate about this area. Postpartum fitness, we want women to feel stronger, more confident, and enjoy moving again. And if you're a runner or you know other women that run, please share this episode with them. I feel like it's such a great reminder. Again, most of us need it, that our athletes, as runners, we have taught ourselves to ignore our body usually. So this is especially for runners, a really hard concept, I think. And we are a small women owned business, so it would mean the world to us if you could take 2 minutes today to leave an app review or a podcast review. It just helps us so much, and it helps the podcast get into other women's ears that need it. So appreciate you, and until next time.